Hello, and welcome to Skyhaven, an airport simulator game that started out as a Kickstarter project by Real Welders, a software development company in Vilnius, which is the capital of Lithuania. It has recently moved over to early access on Steam, and the developers are continuing to upgrade it and fix bugs as they crop up. So let's take a quick dive into it and see what the game's about. The game starts off in the year 1916, and you will start off with small propeller planes that ship mainly cargo and mail, and or land requesting fuel. Eventually, you'll make your way into the later stages and start accepting passenger flights as you transition through the world that is aircrafts. So we'll go ahead and click OK and take a look at the map. The green space where there's no trees is where you have to build your airport. It is the entirety of the space you'll have throughout the game, so plan on laying your airport out accordingly. The buildings are fuel, cargo, and office, and you can expand these as you progress using the office for research. Finally, you have the airport runway infrastructure, which is grass-based. So we'll go ahead and drop a runway real quick here. The arrows denote where planes will come in from. And then we'll add a exit ramp and an entrance ramp. They clip to the sides of the runway, but are a little finicky, so you gotta kind of mess with it until you get it to the side you need it on. And I usually drop two, one for planes landing and one for planes taking off. Once those are down, we'll go ahead and drop a tarmac, and then we'll pull that out into a space where we can drop parking pads. The parking pads are directional, so you'll want the circle at the top where the plane will come in at, and then the service cars will travel down the road to service your airplanes, and then the plane will exit out the bottom and continue on to your runway to take off. So we'll go ahead and get ready and drop a few of those. Now you can shift click to drop multiple of anything. In this instance, we'll drop a couple of these parking pads because there are a lot of planes that come in and you want to try and get as much money in as you can, and the best way to do that is to land as many planes as you can and service them. Once we have the parking pads set up the way we want them, we'll go ahead and drop fuel and cargo buildings and configure those so that they can service the planes as they land. So fuel buildings, you want to kind of drop them midway between the entrance to the left there and your parking pads to the right, because fuel trucks will come in and drop fuel in the building, and then other fuel trucks will deliver it to planes. Now, in my overexuberance, I've dropped too much and need to take out a loan. The loan system is fairly simple. You pick your size and you pick your dates. The longer period will allow you to pay it off a little bit easier just because you're paying less money each day, so you can eventually bank up enough money to have a reserve of cash positive money. So we'll go ahead and accept this thing, and there we go. So now we've got the cargo to set up, and what we're going to do is link it to the various parking pads. You can link them all at the same time, or you can link them individually. Initially, you'll link all of them at once, and eventually you'll start linking them individually once you have more cargo facilities or more landing pads to hook up to. So we'll go ahead and get some vehicles in here because that's how you service the airplanes. So you'll start off with 2 parking spaces. You can upgrade those spaces later if you want, and then we'll just go ahead and add 2 vehicles here real quick. Eventually you'll want to upgrade and add more spaces because that just allows you to handle more cargo. Now the cargo facility has a storage space in it, about 50 units, and as planes land, they'll offload cargo and load cargo. So what we need to do is set up contracts for delivery. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a regular delivery contract for 50 cargo at $200 a night at midnight there. You can adjust those sliders as you need, and then once you're happy with it, click sign. You can set up a few of these package deliveries because you're going to need them. It's throughout the day you'll get more and more planes landing and taking cargo from you. So same thing for the fuel barrel. We'll go ahead and link this, click it for everybody, and then we'll go ahead and add a vehicle here for this. Quickly buy that, then go back. We'll add a couple parking spaces just because there are a lot of planes requesting fuel and it's a very intensive task, so it's easier to add more now than later. so you can handle more planes that way. So now that we have the trucks set up, we'll go ahead and close out, open up fuel storage. Each facility will have 5,000 or more fuel available, and we'll go ahead and set up a supply because we're going to need some fuel to fuel all the planes. Now you can set it any time in the day, but if you adjust it, you have to give it a 3-hour window. Slider obviously gives you the amount and then the cost underneath. Now, unlike cargo, these are instant delivery only, and you can unlock flexible or take pay later on down the road. You got to research them. The flexible is probably your best bet at first, but if you're using the instant, you really got to watch your fuel levels, because if you don't fuel planes, they won't take off. So we'll go ahead and put 4,000 in, sign the contract, and go back. You got your speed buttons down here in the bottom left. We'll go ahead and speed it up, wait for the first flight to come in. Flights show up on the left side here. These are 2 cargo flights, so they're going to give us $106 each, and we'll schedule them to a specific landing pad to land. So try and get the most expensive flights you can, and then just leave a few spaces open. I usually schedule the first flights. So he'll land, go ahead and go into his parking slot, and here come the next batch of planes. So these ones are going to take cargo and fuel, which is definitely going to pay out more. You want to try and target those as best you can, but you got to remember that it's going to take a little bit of time to fuel and unload and load each one of these planes. Just keep an eye on that. So we've got 2 spaces left. However, that last plane maxes out what the airport can handle at a time. You can research that later, but right now we need to take a look at our fuel real quick because we are about to run out. So I'll go ahead and get a 4,000 fuel, sign that real quick, and then it takes about a half an hour in game time for the fuel to show up. Take a quick look at the model for the airplane. They're pretty detailed and they did a really good job on these. Now we'll take a look at the contract screen real quick here, and I'll explain that. So you got your contracts, the ones that you have open, and then airlines that you can sign contracts with. You start off with just a couple, and as time goes on, you can access more and more airplanes. We'll sign this one, and this is a cargo only one, so we'll go ahead and sign another one real quick here, and this one will provide passengers. I'm not quite sure what the icons indicate, but I'm guessing in the future it'll be easy to identify. And we'll sign one last one. That one also gives us passengers as well. We'll go ahead and switch back to the contract window, and you can see all of the contracts that we've got available now. You've got the average income for those contracts and how much the signing bonus is, and then as well the penalty, which is in red. The good thing to keep in mind here is that once you sign a contract, you have to schedule those flights. On the signed contract screen, you can set how much time it takes to turn that airplane around and the amount of penalty you can receive for not servicing that airplane in time. Less penalty you pay, longer time you have to turn it around. Shorter time you turn it around, more penalty you have to pay. So we'll go ahead and set it there at 1 hour and 15 and $45 and sign the contract. Once you sign it, you see that everything goes into preview mode here, so you can look at contracts, but you can't actually sign any more contracts, like I said, until you schedule them. So we'll go ahead and schedule those now. We'll switch over to the flight scheduler window, and at the bottom here you can see the flights from the contract we just signed. And then this ramp I've already set up to receive scheduled flights only. These other ramps are set up to receive the free flights that you saw earlier. So you've got to just change it to that scheduled icon. Now, I've waited a little bit long in the day, and that red line actually tells me where the current time is, and it won't allow any flights I schedule up to a certain point to land until the next day. This flight here should land today actually. What that means is that the ramp will be unavailable for the first half of the day because you can't land a on-demand flight on a scheduled ramp. You've got to only land scheduled flights. And because I waited, those flights are going to land tomorrow. So we'll go ahead and get this last guy up here on the schedule. One quick thing to note here is the little number in the top right corner is actually the number of flights for that schedule block. So this instance, we've got one flight that'll be landing. So tomorrow we'll have to come back and fill in more flights. Now that we've got the flights placed where we want them, I'll go ahead and down here, select the checkbox to confirm it, and those flights are now set. So we can go back over and I'll run through another one real quick here. We'll go ahead and sign that contract and go back over to the flight window. And I'll drop these in, and you can see this flight won't go there because it's going to finish in the non-operating hours. So I'll unlock another runway because that's where I know the flights will actually show up today. I'll go ahead and schedule them for today. So I've got one extra flight that won't fit. It's okay to leave them down there in the bottom. They will just sit there and you won't be able to sign any more contracts until that flight is taken care of. Confirm that and go back over, and as you can see, you can't really sign any more contracts. Close out of here, and I'll go into the research screen next. The research screen is broken out into several sections: airplane services, passenger services, personnel, construction, and office works. We'll go ahead and go to the office works tab first because I like to try and get the office furniture task, and then you can also unlock additional flight scheduling and contracts for cargo and fuel. The top left corner there is the 3 guys. Those are actually the scientists. You can employ up to 10 per office that you drop, and you can have multiple offices in a game. So we'll go ahead and get the speed boost that office furniture provides. And all right, so this is the airport services screen, and as you can see, I've researched most of the items here in the early half of the game. Everything with a blue check mark has been researched. And if we scroll to the right here, you can see that as time progresses, you can unlock more and more things that are consistent with that time, that era. And the red line here indicates what era I'm currently in. So I'm in the Turbo Streams era of the 1950s. And I've got most of it all the way up to the 1960s researched. Same thing for the passenger services tab. I've got most of this researched. Now you don't have to research everything in the time frame that it is operated in, but it makes sense because it helps progress your airport. And here's the personnel services tab real quick, and the constructions tab. And then we'll go back to my airport and I'll show you what I've got set up so far. This is the grass tarmac that I've set up, and I've got a few planes that are waiting on service here, but that is what it is, mostly because I haven't been paying attention to the grass tarmac as much as I should. You can see over here I've got a advanced cargo building, which allows you to provide cargo facilities to the airplanes that land. And then over here we've got a early days advanced airport terminal for passenger traffic. And then this building is the very early airport station, which allows you to, so you've got 2 stages. So this is the first one, very early days, and you've got kind of an advanced version of it. And then down here we've got our hand pump, which helps fuel the airplanes. And then if we go south here a little bit, you'll come to my new Jet Era terminal that I'm currently working on hooking up, and my 2-lane fuel station. And then we have the Jet Era ramp service and the Aero Snacks facility, which provides food to the passengers. Then we go to the right here a little bit, and I'll zoom out some, and you can see the concrete pads that I'm working on setting up. Now, I've got a concrete runway here that I need to also hook up with a ramp and tarmac to these pads and then loop them back around. And then if we come down a little further here, you can see the asphalt pads that I've set up and hooked up to the advanced airport terminal, which this one services these pads and this one services these pads. And then I've got fuel stations that map up accordingly, as well as cargo facilities. And I also have some giant barrel storage, which allows me to store about 138,000 liters of fuel, which surprisingly is not enough to make it through a given day. And there you go. So that's my airport as I've got it set up now, and I look forward to seeing what kind of airports you guys come up with, and hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you.